Reason and Existenz, 5 lectures by Karl Jaspers, quotes. Reason and Existenz, 5 lectures by Karl Jaspers presents a penetrating examination of the interplay between reason and individual existence, exploring how these forces define human understanding and shape our relation to truth, freedom, and transcendence. Delivered as a series of lectures in 1935, Jaspers' work reflects his deep engagement with existentialist thought, especially as influenced by Kierkegaard and Nietzsche. Jaspers investigates the concepts of the encompassing and existence, proposing that reason is not merely a tool of logic, but a path to authentic selfhood and meaningful existence. Through these reflections, he encourages readers to confront their limits and to seek a unity of reason and spirit as they strive to make sense of their place in the modern world. Quote 1. The rational is not thinkable without its other, the non-rational, and it never appears in reality without it. The only question is, in what form the other appears, how it remains in spite of all, and how it is to be grasped. This quote highlights the intertwined nature of reason and non-reason. It suggests that rational thought cannot exist in isolation from its counterpart, the non-rational, and the central challenge of philosophy is to understand how the non-rational manifests alongside reason. The passage also hints at the perpetual presence of the non-rational, despite attempts to fully subsume it under reason. Quote 2. In Christianity, the opposition between reason and non-reason developed as a struggle between reason and faith within each man. This quote underscores the internal conflict within Christianity, where reason is contrasted with faith. Jaspers suggests that faith, as something beyond reason, presents a fundamental challenge to rationality, with the non-rational elements of faith being seen not as mere chance or chaos, but as revelations of a higher order. Quote 3. For a century we have seen individual philosophers become objects of special studies, and have seen restorations of their doctrines. This reflects on the shift in philosophy over time, where historical philosophical figures and their teachings are revisited and analyzed in depth, often removed from the existential context in which they were originally conceived. It points to a broader critique of the academic treatment of philosophy as detached from real life. Philosophy, quote 4, philosophizing to be authentic must grow out of our new reality, and there take its stand. Jaspers argues that authentic philosophy must emerge from the present conditions and realities of life, not from past doctrines or traditions. This call for philosophy to be rooted in contemporary experience emphasizes the need for philosophy to evolve and remain relevant in addressing modern existential concerns. Quote 5. Common to both of them is a type of thought and humanity which was indissolubly connected with a moment of this epoch, and so understood by them. This passage refers to Kierkegaard and Nietzsche, suggesting that their thoughts were deeply intertwined with the specific spiritual and intellectual conditions of their time. They were uniquely positioned to perceive and respond to the existential crises of their era, shaping their philosophies in reaction to these challenges. Quote 6. Both questioned reason from the depths of existence. Never on such a high level of thought had there been such a thoroughgoing and radical opposition to mere reason. This quote highlights the depth and intensity with which both Kierkegaard and Nietzsche challenged traditional notions of reason. Their radical opposition wasn't rooted in simple rejection, but in a profound existential inquiry, seeking to explore truth beyond the limits of rational thought. Quote 7. The will utilizes these possibilities in knowledge to its own advantage. A battle arises for and against reason. In this passage, Jaspers emphasizes the complex relationship between will and reason. The will can use knowledge to support its own aims, often leading to a struggle between forces that advocate for pure reason and those that seek to subdue or even overthrow reason. This battle reflects deeper philosophical tensions concerning the limits and purpose of rational thought in human existence. Quote 8. If Kierkegaard presupposed the truth, or the possibility of the truth of Christianity, and Nietzsche, on the other hand, found in atheism not simply a loss, but rather the greatest opportunity, still, what is common to both is a will toward the substance of being, toward the nobility and value of man. Jaspers points out the shared philosophical pursuit between Kierkegaard and Nietzsche despite their apparent differences. Kierkegaard's commitment to Christianity and Nietzsche's embrace of atheism both stem from a deeper search for meaning and human nobility. This shows that their ultimate concern was not just about belief or disbelief, but about elevating human existence and understanding its core substance. Quote 9. Without infinite reflection, we should fall into the quiet of the settled and established, which, as something permanent in the world, would become absolute. That is, we should become superstitious. Jaspers suggests that without the challenging and ongoing process of reflection, humanity risks falling into rigid dogmas and superstitions. Infinite reflection prevents the mind from accepting static beliefs as final truths, fostering a sense of intellectual freedom and continuous questioning. Quote 10. Reflection, which can just as well dissolve into nothing as become the condition of existence, is described as such, and in the same way by both Kierkegaard and Nietzsche. Jaspers highlights how both Kierkegaard and Nietzsche saw reflection as a double-edged sword. While it can lead to existential dissolution, it also provides the foundation for authentic existence. This tension between reflection's potential for destruction and creation underscores the existential struggles central to their philosophies. Quote 11. They warned, as no thinker before had, against taking their words too simply, words which seemed to stand there apodictically. Kierkegaard and Nietzsche cautioned their readers not to take their statements at face value. Their thoughts, though presented in seemingly definitive terms, were meant to provoke deeper reflection rather than offer final answers. This highlights their awareness of the complexity of truth and the dangers of oversimplification. Quote 12. They, for whom it was a question of all or nothing, dared limitlessness. This quote encapsulates the radical nature of Kierkegaard and Nietzsche's philosophical quests. Both thinkers were willing to confront the most extreme possibilities of human thought and existence, pushing beyond conventional limits to explore existential truths that others might have feared or avoided. Quote 13. In every generation, there are 2 or 3 who are sacrificed for the others, who discover in frightful suffering what others shall profit by. This quote reflects Kierkegaard's and Nietzsche's understanding of their roles as exceptional figures who endure immense personal suffering for the sake of insights that others may later benefit from. They saw themselves as outcasts, set apart from society, whose painful experiences would serve as a foundation for others' growth and understanding. Quote 14. What you call chance, you yourself are that which befalls and astonishes you. In this reflection on chance, Nietzsche asserts that what appears to be random or coincidental is actually a reflection of one's own nature. This suggests a deeper connection between an individual's essence and the unfolding events in their life, where what seems like chance is, in fact, an expression of one's inner reality. Quote 15. Reflection cannot exhaust or stop itself. It is faithless, since it hinders every decision. It is never finished, and in the end can become dialectical twaddle. In this respect, he called it the poison of reflection. This quote highlights the dangers of overthinking or excessive reflection. Both Kierkegaard and Nietzsche saw how endless reflection can prevent decisive action, leading to a paralysis of will. This poison of reflection refers to the way it can obstruct genuine existential engagement with the world. Quote 16. The thought of death is a nimble dancer. Everybody is too serious for me. Kierkegaard and Nietzsche both use the metaphor of dancing to represent their lightness of thought in the face of existential difficulties. Here, Kierkegaard describes how the awareness of death liberates him from the heavy seriousness that consumes others, allowing him to dance through life's challenges with a sense of freedom and agility. Quote 17. They were aware of their problem in a continual return from the extremities of their demands to a rejection of any idea which would make them models or ways of life. This quote emphasizes Kierkegaard's and Nietzsche's reluctance to be seen as models or leaders, despite the intensity and extremity of their philosophical demands. They were conscious of the dangers of being idolized or imitated and actively rejected the notion that their ideas should be followed as prescriptive paths. Quote 18. In fact, they are exceptions and not models for followers. Jaspers clarifies that Kierkegaard and Nietzsche, though profound in their insights, were unique exceptions and should not be viewed as models to be directly followed. Their philosophies were personal and extreme, suited to their exceptional natures, and not meant to be templates for others. Quote 19. Nobody knows where man and his thinking are going. Since existence, man, and his world are not at an end, a completed philosophy is as little possible as an anticipation of the whole. This passage points to the open-ended nature of existence and thought. Jaspers argues that because life and human thinking are still evolving, no definitive or completed philosophy can ever be achieved. This highlights the ongoing process of philosophical inquiry and the uncertainty of its future direction. Quote 20. We always live and think within a horizon, but the very fact that it is a horizon indicates something further, which again surrounds the given horizon. This quote highlights the idea that our understanding and experience of the world are always bounded by horizons, meaning there are limits to what we can perceive or comprehend. However, the concept of a horizon also suggests that there is always something beyond these limits, encouraging continuous questioning and exploration, as no horizon provides a complete or final view of reality. Quote 21. Knowledge of the many always leads to distraction. One runs into the infinite unless one arbitrarily sets a limit by some unquestioned purpose or contingent interest. Here, Jaspers suggests that an attempt to know everything without establishing meaningful boundaries can lead to confusion and an overwhelming sense of endlessness. To make knowledge manageable and purposeful, it is often necessary to impose limits, even if these are shaped by arbitrary or practical concerns, in order to prevent aimless wandering in the vastness of potential knowledge. Quote 22. Empirical existence, as the overpowering other which determines me, is the world. This statement reflects how the external world shapes and influences the individual. Empirical existence, referring to the physical reality in which we live, is portrayed as a dominant force that defines and determines who we are, yet remains an elusive, incomprehensible other that cannot be fully grasped or controlled. Quote 23. Consciousness as such is in itself nothing independent. On one side, it points to its basis in empirical existence. On the other, it points to spirit. Jaspers presents consciousness as a mediator between empirical existence and spirit. Consciousness is not a self-sufficient entity. It is shaped by the material world, empirical existence, while striving toward a higher, spiritual understanding. This dual connection highlights the complex nature of human awareness, which constantly navigates between physical reality and intellectual or spiritual ideals. Quote 24. Spirit is the will to become whole. Potential existenz is the will to be authentic. This quote contrasts two essential human drives: spirit, which seeks to unify and comprehend the totality of existence, and existenz, which seeks authenticity and individual meaning. While spirit aims for universality and wholeness, existenz is concerned with personal truth and the struggle for genuine self-realization. Quote 25. Only through existenz can transcendence become present without superstition, as the genuine reality which to itself never disappears. Jaspers explains that it is through existenz, or authentic existence, that we can experience transcendence, a higher reality, in a meaningful way, without falling into superstition. Existenz provides a direct, personal connection to the transcendent, allowing it to manifest as a real and enduring presence in our lives. Quote 26. Existenz is historical as eternity in time, as the absolute historicity of its concrete empirical existence in a spiritual opacity which is never removed. In this passage, Jaspers emphasizes the paradox of existenz as both eternal and temporal. It represents a unique individual's lived experience within history, deeply tied to the moment, yet connected to a timeless spiritual reality. This duality suggests that authentic existence is grounded in the present, but reaches towards something beyond time. Quote 27. Reason is the inextinguishable impulse to philosophize, with whose destruction reason itself is destroyed. Jaspers presents reason as an unstoppable force, essential to the act of philosophizing. Without this drive to reason and question, philosophy itself would cease to exist. This highlights the centrality of reason in the pursuit of deeper understanding, as it continually pushes against limits and propels thought forward. Quote 28. Existenz only becomes clear through reason. Reason only has content through existenz. This quote emphasizes the interdependence of existenz and reason. Existenz, or authentic existence, requires the clarity that reason provides, while reason derives its meaning and substance from existenz. This mutual reliance ensures that both remain grounded and meaningful in the human experience, preventing either from becoming hollow or detached. Quote 29. Reason should not get caught within any mode of the encompassing, not in empirical existence to favor a will to exist, which in its very narrowness asserts itself purposively yet blindly, nor in consciousness as such, in favor of endless validities which are indifferent to us. Here, Jaspers warns against confining reason to any singular mode of existence, such as empirical existence or pure consciousness. Doing so would limit reason's scope, either by reducing it to purposeless survival or to an abstract, indifferent pursuit of truth. Reason must remain flexible and expansive, engaging with all modes of the encompassing without becoming trapped in any one perspective. Quote 30. But existenz is also oriented toward an other. It is related to transcendence, through which it first becomes an independent cause in the world. This passage highlights that existenz, while grounded in the self, is fundamentally directed toward something beyond itself. Transcendence. Through this relationship with transcendence, existenz gains its autonomy and power, enabling it to act meaningfully within the world. Quote 31. Without reason, existenz is inactive, sleeping, and as though not there. Jaspers asserts that reason is essential for activating existenz. Without the clarity and questioning that reason provides, existenz remains dormant, unable to engage fully with the world or realize its potential. This underscores the importance of reason in bringing existenz to life. Quote 32. The higher gives limits and order of rank to the lower, without being able, however, to generate it. Jaspers explains that higher forms of being, such as reason or spirit, provide structure and meaning to lower forms, like empirical existence. However, these higher forms cannot produce the lower. Rather, they guide and organize them. This points to the hierarchical nature of existence, where each level has its own intrinsic value and function. Quote 33. Now, for the first time, it is possible to be in the present without disappearing into the restrictions of the unthinking, the blind, and the unrelated. This quote reflects the culmination of philosophical reflection, where one becomes fully present and engaged with reality. By understanding the encompassing and maintaining a balance between reason and existenz, an individual can live consciously and meaningfully, avoiding the traps of thoughtlessness and disconnection from the world. Quote 34. There can be no man who is a man for himself alone, as a mere individual. This quote highlights Jaspers' belief that human beings are fundamentally social creatures, whose identity and existence are shaped through communication and relationships with others. A person cannot fully realize their humanity in isolation, as human life is inherently connected to a community of shared understanding and mutual consciousness. Quote 35. Truth, therefore, cannot be separated from communicability. It only appears in time as a reality through communication. Jaspers asserts that truth is not an isolated concept, but is deeply intertwined with communication. It becomes real and meaningful only when it is shared and understood between individuals. Without communication, truth remains abstract and detached from the lived reality of human beings. Quote 36. In the empirical community, therefore, insofar as we isolate it in its meaning, it is the pragmatic concept of truth which is valid. Truth does not lie in something already known, or something finally knowable, or in an absolute, but rather in what arises and comes to pass. Here, Jaspers explains that in the realm of empirical existence, truth is fluid and pragmatic. It is not an absolute or final concept, but is constantly evolving based on circumstances and actions. This emphasizes the idea that truth in the empirical world is not fixed, but is shaped by ongoing processes and practical outcomes. Quote 37. In the medium of spirit, it is conviction which counts, a conviction which is confirmed out of the idea. In this passage, Jaspers distinguishes the type of truth found in the realm of spirit, where truth is shaped by conviction rather than mere factual accuracy. This conviction arises from a deeper sense of purpose and understanding of the whole, indicating that truth in the spiritual realm is connected to one's commitment to a larger, more meaningful totality. Quote 38. The will to communicate can be satisfied only according to the formula. Every mode of communicability has its right. None can be omitted. Jaspers emphasizes the need for comprehensive communication across all levels of human existence. For communication to be truly satisfying and meaningful, it must encompass all modes of the encompassing: empirical, intellectual, and spiritual. Ignoring any one mode would result in an incomplete or distorted understanding of truth. Quote 39. The communication of spirit is the emergence of the idea of a whole out of the communal substance. This quote reflects the unique nature of communication within the realm of spirit, where individuals contribute to a greater whole that transcends individual understanding. In this form of communication, participants are united by a shared vision or idea, and their interactions contribute to the realization of a communal yet incomplete totality. Quote 40. Existenz and reason are inseparable. Each disappears with the disappearance of the other. Jaspers asserts the fundamental relationship between existenz, authentic existence, and reason. These two concepts are deeply interconnected. Without reason, existenz loses its clarity and direction, and without existenz, reason becomes hollow, and without meaningful content. Together, they form the foundation of authentic human life. Existenz, quote 41, then only becomes apparent and thereby real if it comes to itself through, and at the same time with, another existenz. Jaspers emphasizes that existenz, or authentic existence, only fully realizes itself in the context of communication with another existenz. It is through this mutual recognition and interaction that one's selfhood and reality become clear, highlighting the relational nature of human existence. Quote 42. Reason is potential existenz, which in its thinking is continually directed upon an other, upon the being which we are not, upon the world, and upon transcendence. Here, Jaspers explains that reason serves as a bridge between existence and the broader world, constantly seeking to understand what lies beyond oneself. Reason is not confined to self-reflection. It is driven to explore the world and transcendence, expanding the individual's grasp of reality. Quote 43. The higher sense of the word reason should be preserved. It should not sink to mean mere comprehensibility, spirituality, or the necessities of empirical existence. Jaspers argues that reason should be understood in its highest form, not reduced to basic understanding or practicality. Reason, in its true sense, transcends mere intellectual or empirical concerns, representing a deeper and more profound pursuit of truth and meaning. Existenz, quote 44, finds itself in a realm of mind which cannot be closed, of existenz open before transcendence. This passage suggests that existenz is always in a state of openness, never fully confined or closed off. It remains exposed to the possibilities of transcendence, always striving for deeper understanding and connection beyond the limits of immediate reality. Quote 45. The will to communicate, which actualizes itself out of potential existence through reason in the three modes of the encompassing, itself does not reach fulfillment. Jaspers indicates that the will to communicate, though essential and driven by existenz and reason, is never fully realized. Communication remains incomplete, bound by the limitations of historical and existential conditions, yet it continues to strive for deeper expression and understanding. Quote 46. Truth, in its movement, is never complete, but in every factual completion also remains continuously open. Jaspers conveys the dynamic nature of truth, which is never final or fully realized. Even when a truth seems to be established, it remains open to further questioning and development, reflecting the ongoing, evolving nature of human understanding. Quote 47. Thought has a formal priority, not a priority in being or value. Jaspers emphasizes that while thought holds a formal priority, meaning it is essential for understanding and organizing experiences, it does not take precedence in terms of existence or intrinsic value. Thought is a tool that helps us make sense of the world, but it derives its content and meaning from the reality it seeks to comprehend, not from itself. Quote 48. Nothing can withdraw itself from the universality of thought. It is thought which turns everything else into a possibility for us. This passage underscores the pervasive nature of thought. Everything that becomes part of our experience or knowledge does so through the medium of thought. Thought transforms all potential experiences into something that can be understood and considered, making it the foundation for human comprehension. Quote 49. Reason is the indispensable. Thus, I perceive ignorance itself through knowledge, and perfect ignorance only through the maximum of reason. Jaspers explains that reason is essential in all understanding, even in recognizing what we do not know. The awareness of ignorance is only possible through the application of reason, which illuminates the limits of our knowledge and pushes us toward further inquiry. Quote 50. We are natures which not only inquire into the things in the world, but also into ourselves and into the whole. This quote reflects the dual nature of human inquiry. Jaspers suggests that humans are not only concerned with understanding the external world, but also with examining their own existence and the larger reality of being. This introspective inquiry is fundamental to understanding our place within the totality of existence. Quote 51. In transcending thought, comprehension is only possible through an encounter in real experience of that encompassing about which one is talking. Jaspers argues that certain kinds of understanding, especially those involving transcendent ideas, cannot be fully grasped through abstract thought alone. They require direct, lived experience of the encompassing, the all-encompassing reality that includes and transcends individual experiences. Quote 52. The ultimate in thinking, as in communication, is silence. This statement highlights the limits of thought and communication. Jaspers suggests that after all possible attempts at understanding and expression, what remains is silence, symbolizing the ineffable nature of certain truths that cannot be fully articulated or comprehended through rational means. Quote 53. Philosophical ideas no longer retain their total expressive power when reduced to these bare circles, although they are still preserved in seed. Jaspers warns that philosophical ideas lose their richness when reduced to simplistic logical structures or circles. While the core insight remains, its full meaning and depth are diminished, illustrating the complexity and nuance required to truly engage with philosophical thought. Quote 54. Existenz is something which, according to its essence, is incapable of being established as an empirical existent, and which therefore cannot be discriminated by any objective investigation. Jaspers highlights that existenz, the authentic existence of an individual, cannot be empirically measured or objectively understood. It transcends the physical and observable, requiring a deeper, more personal understanding that goes beyond the realm of objective knowledge. Quote 55. I am genuinely rational only if my whole reason factually and for my knowing is grounded upon unreason. Jaspers suggests that true rationality is achieved when one acknowledges that reason itself has its roots in something beyond logic, an underlying unreason. This paradox indicates that reason is not self-sufficient, but is connected to a broader, less rational foundation that supports it. Quote 56. In action, I truly accomplish something out of potential existenz only if I am consciously prepared to accept its shipwreck. This quote emphasizes the necessity of embracing risk in authentic action. Jaspers argues that meaningful actions, those rooted in potential existenz, are only fully realized when one is willing to face the possibility of failure. This openness to the shipwreck of one's efforts is key to true engagement with life. Quote 57. Every premise of justification enters into the realm of the rationale. The truth of the non-rational is impossible unless reason is pushed to its limit. Jaspers asserts that even when dealing with the non-rational aspects of existence, justification and understanding must operate within the framework of reason. The non-rational can only reveal its truth when reason has been stretched to its boundaries, showing the interconnectedness of both realms. Quote 58. The truth of existential thought never lies in its content as such, but rather in what happens to me in the thinking of it. Here, Jaspers explains that the value of existential philosophy is not found in the specific ideas or concepts it presents, but in the transformative experience that occurs within the thinker. The true impact of existential thought is how it changes the person engaging with it, rather than in the static content of the philosophy itself. Quote 59. I can only speak of that out of which I live and am, insofar as I miss saying it conceptually and therefore indirectly reveal it. Jaspers points out the limits of conceptual language, noting that when we try to express the deepest aspects of our being, we often miss the mark. However, in doing so, we indirectly reveal truths about our existence that cannot be fully captured by direct expression, emphasizing the complexity of human communication. Quote 60. There is no truth without some kind of communicability, and what is communicable always belongs on many levels to the various modes of the encompassing in their interrelations. Jaspers emphasizes that truth must be communicable to have meaning. It is not confined to one level of existence, but must be expressed and understood through the different modes of the encompassing, revealing the multifaceted nature of truth and its dependence on human interaction. Quote 61. Philosophy, after Kierkegaard and Nietzsche, can no longer bring its thought into a single, complete system to be brought out as a presentation derived from its principles. Jaspers reflects on the impact of Kierkegaard and Nietzsche, stating that their influence has rendered it impossible for philosophy to be confined to a single, systematic approach. Their contributions introduced a complexity and fragmentation to thought that prevents philosophy from being reduced to one unified system. Quote 62. Reason is not quite the substance out of which philosophy arises, for philosophy must ground itself in potential existenz, which, for its part, can only unfold in rationality. Here, Jaspers points out that while reason is essential to philosophy, it is not its fundamental substance. Philosophy is rooted in existenz, the potential for authentic existence, and this potential only unfolds when supported by rationality. Existenz and reason are intertwined, but reason alone cannot form the core of philosophical thought. Quote 63. I can speak of reason, personify it, and pay my respects to it as the condition of all truth for me. But it is never a permanent thing, rather it constitutes a continuous task in time. Jaspers explains that reason, while necessary for truth, is not static or final. It is an ongoing process, a task that unfolds over time. Reason serves as a tool to clarify and sustain truth, but it is not an ultimate destination in itself. Quote 64. The truth in the exception for us is that it poses a perpetual question without which we would sink back into the more or less crude platitudes of a self-satisfaction which is no longer thinking radically. This quote highlights how exceptions, extreme or radical cases like those presented by Kierkegaard and Nietzsche, keep philosophy from falling into complacency. These exceptions challenge conventional thinking and prevent the stagnation of thought, constantly pushing the boundaries of philosophical inquiry. Quote 65. There is nothing which can withdraw itself from contact with reason, and nothing which does not authentically emerge for the first time through either the positive or negative conditions of reason. Jaspers asserts the omnipresence of reason, stating that all things, whether they align with or oppose reason, are ultimately brought to light through it. Reason serves as the essential framework through which everything, even contradictions, becomes intelligible. Quote 66. It is necessary to break through every form which tends to become a final validity, to master all thinkable points of view in their relativity. Jaspers argues that no single point of view should be taken as absolute or final. Philosophy must continually challenge and transcend every form of understanding, recognizing the relativity of all perspectives. This keeps philosophical thought dynamic and open to new possibilities. Quote 67. Thus, philosophical logic can be an objectively powerless, unforced and quiet operation through which truth in every one of its senses is enabled to grow out of its origins. Here, Jaspers describes philosophical logic as a subtle yet vital process. It may appear powerless in its lack of coercion or force, but through its quiet operation, it creates space for truth to develop naturally. This approach fosters the emergence of truth from its deeper origins without imposing limitations. Quote 68. The unconditionally atheistic is closer to the truly faithful than is thoughtless mediocrity. Jaspers suggests that both atheism and true faith, despite being opposites, are closer in their seriousness and depth of commitment than a superficial or indifferent attitude. The intensity and earnestness of both positions make them more meaningful, even if they stand in opposition to each other. Quote 69. Philosophy is never a sociological power like churchly belief and atheism. Jaspers distinguishes philosophy from religious institutions and atheism, emphasizing that philosophy does not wield sociological power. Instead, it is a personal, internal pursuit that seeks to awaken the soul to truth without serving or opposing any particular doctrine or societal structure. Philosophy, quote 70. Philosophizing, which remains faithful to its origins, cannot really understand either revealed religion or atheism. This quote reflects the idea that while philosophy can engage with both religion and atheism, it cannot fully comprehend or adopt either. Philosophizing remains distinct, grounded in its own methods and inquiries, and does not fully align with the absolute claims of either belief system. Quote 71. In face of both religion and atheism, philosophy lives out of its own faith. Jaspers asserts that philosophy possesses its own form of faith, separate from religious belief or atheism. This philosophical faith arises from the individual's internal search for truth and is not tied to any external revelation or dogma, but to a personal engagement with transcendence. Quote 72. This belief, which is in reason, is more than reason. Here, Jaspers explains that philosophical faith involves a trust in reason, but it transcends mere rationality. This faith goes beyond logical reasoning, incorporating deeper aspects of existence and the individual's relationship to the infinite, making it an integral part of philosophical inquiry. Quote 73. The individual before his transcendence, in which position alone man is man, struggles against the evaporation of his own fundamental ground into something universal, but also against his own loss of himself through defiant self-assertion. Jaspers describes the tension the individual faces when confronting transcendence. On one hand, there is the risk of losing personal identity by dissolving into universal concepts. On the other, there is the danger of losing oneself through excessive self-assertion. The individual must balance between these extremes to maintain an authentic existence. Quote 74. Philosophical contemplation is the life of existenz, as it ponders over being, as it reads the cryptograms of empirical existence and all modes of being which I encounter and which I am. This quote emphasizes that philosophical contemplation is an active engagement with existence. It involves interpreting the hidden meanings, cryptograms, within empirical reality and the various forms of being, allowing the individual to gain deeper insights into both their own existence and the world around them. Reason and Existenz. 5 lectures by Karl Jaspers concludes with a powerful assertion that true freedom and understanding arise through the continuous, dynamic engagement of reason with existential questions. Jaspers emphasizes that reason reaches its fullest potential when it operates in harmony with existenz, the authentic self, allowing individuals to transcend superficiality and embrace the unknown. This work ultimately serves as both a critique of rigid rationalism and a call to live with courage, seeking truth beyond established boundaries. Jaspers leaves readers with the insight that philosophy, rather than delivering final answers, inspires an ongoing journey toward meaning within the mysteries of existence.
Curious to dive into the mind of Karl Jaspers? With StudyLab Pro's book GPT, it's possible. Ask questions, explore themes, and discover the depths of Reason and Existenz 5 lectures in an entirely new way. Start your conversation now by clicking on our logo. And if you're hungry for more educational content, subscribe to our channel to keep discovering, learning, and growing. Want more than just videos? Click on our logo now to join us on our platform for multiple choice tests, in-depth content, and tools to help you ace your studies. Get started now.